Look at that.
I'm going to call the St. Croix County Administration Committee meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Chair Burning,
Present.
Vice Chair Counter,
Present.
Supervisor Fiedler, Supervisor Long,
Present.
Supervisor Shirley.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of minutes. Are there any changes or additions? Any changes or additions to the minutes? Any changes or additions to the minutes? Seeing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. Public comment. Now is the time for public comment. So I see that there are some public comment cards. I'll call your name out. If you would come to the podium, we do have a 3-minute timer. If you could state your name and your address for us prior to commenting, that'd be great. We'll start with Joyce Santo, please. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Santo. I live on 664 Edie Lane in Hudson Township. And I'm just coming to voice my support for the board to stay in negotiations with Xcel Energy to, as the process of using solar cells in our county. I think it's the way that we have to go. It's clean energy. We're going to have to come up with renewable sources, and this seems like a very viable way to do it. So I think I would like to see you continue with the plan that was in place and not increase the amount of money spent trying to fight it, rather stay in negotiation to make the best deal for all of us. I think there's other ways in our county, much more useful ways to spend $300,000 to $500,000. So thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Next up is Celeste Cobrell. Sorry if I slaughtered your last name.
You got it just right. Thank you. Celeste Cobrell. I live in the town of Hudson. As I have said previously, based on my many years of experience facilitating negotiations among people who didn't want to be talking to each other and thought they couldn't come up with anything worth agreeing to, I encourage the county to continue to dedicate resources and effort to negotiating the best possible joint development agreement. If you don't like that term, call it an operating agreement. But now is the time when the county has the most leverage and the most ability to shape any potential solar farm project proposed by Xcel Energy. And it's important that the county has now retained experienced negotiators with relevant knowledge and skills to negotiate on their behalf. I encourage this committee, as the Community Development Committee did, to support continuing that negotiation process with these skilled negotiators who have relevant experience and knowledge. This is where we will get the best return on the expenditure of our public dollars. Even if you don't want any kind of solar project ever in St. Croix County, this is your opportunity to think of this as a contingency. This is your opportunity to shape it, to make it the least objectionable, the most acceptable, and the most beneficial to the county and to the most people in it. Don't give up that opportunity. This is not a question of either or. You need to be negotiating hard, and also you do need to think about your alternatives to a negotiated agreement. Unfortunately, they're not great, given that Wisconsin law allows the county absolutely no authority over permitting this project. You have to negotiate to shape it, to get the best deal you can. Your alternatives also are not great if you don't want a project at all, because Wisconsin state law says any new electric generating facility in the state of Wisconsin must be, if at all possible, renewable energy. That doesn't mean that you can't shape it to make it more acceptable. So please continue those talks. And when you're looking at your budget for next year, yes, you do need to have some amount of money in there in order to continue this process. Right now, it's set at $75,000 based on the estimate from the law firm. That should be sufficient to get the county through the application review process. I urge you to be very conservative in allocating any additional amount, if any. You can always add more later. I know it takes a 2/3 vote of the board to do that, but for now, I think you have a good recommendation. I urge you to go with the budget figure of $75,000 as now recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Next up is John Gostovich. And on deck, I guess that's a thing, Roxanne Jorsted.
Chair Burning, members, I'm John Gostovich. I live actually with Celeste in the town of Hudson. And I have been an expert witness in 2 contested case proceedings before the Minnesota Public Utility Commission. And based on my experience with how those hearings unfold, I don't believe that the county could sustain a case that there exists a less expensive option to the one proposed by Xcel Energy. You will be up against superb experts in the field, published research, refereed closely about the costs and benefits of providing additional new energy to the customers of the utility. You will simply lose if you try and say there's a cheaper way to do it. You will simply lose if you try to sustain the argument that there is an environmentally superior way of doing this. On the other hand, you can get quite a lot in a well-negotiated and tough negotiated operation agreement with the utility. I have seen operating agreements where local units of government have come up with many of their most worrisome considerations addressed by the utility, because the utility wants to build this thing and they don't want to have thousands of people in our county hating them. They provide us with electricity. Many of us have older relatives who count on their stocks and bonds for relatively low-risk, sustainable income as they age. I'm not saying that this utility is in line for sainthood, but I am saying that they will build this project. And for you all to get the most you can at the lowest cost, written down in a contract and signed between the county and the utility, you can get that from a good operating agreement. A term I'm using instead of joint development agreement because I think it's a more accurate descriptor of what the county should be going after. Intervention is expensive, it's hard, and they're good at this. They are crazy good at this, with experts with years of experience, with comparable victories all over the Midwest.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yep. Next up is Roxanne, and on deck is Matt Bachland. And just a quick reminder, if you can state your name and address, please. Thank you.
Roxanne Jorsted, 1373 Bilmar Avenue. I'm just here to remind everybody I do not consent to the 10-mile Solar Creek project. My husband does not either. I remind this administrative committee for St. Croix County that man's laws are corrupt, and we must adhere to God's laws. God requires liberty and justice for all, not just a select few. In my eyes, we're all Americans. We're God's sons and daughters, and our law form starts with God first. the Bible, the Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. We must unite for the greater good of St. Croix County and protect the farmland. I see what lies ahead. I see governments being dissolved. I know that judgment is reserved for God alone as we move forward. I encourage each of you to be a leader like Moses, but understand that Moses was not the lawgiver. He was merely an instrument of God. God uses his sons and daughters to do his will. I pray that your heart is open and that you're listening. The Constitution was made for a moral and honest people, that they would serve justice. I pray that you reverse course, listen to your heart, and stop the 10-mile Solar Creek project so that God can proclaim, "Well done, thou good and faithful servants." I pray that God weighs heavy on your heart and mind tonight and the days ahead. I thank you for letting me speak, and I pray that you come to know Yeshua. It is his preferred name.
Thank you, Roxanne. Next up is Matt Bachlan, and then after that, it's Cherie Croft. Awesome. So don't forget, please, name and address. Thank you.
Hello, Matt Bachland, 573 Omaha Road, Town of Troy. I rise for two purposes tonight. The first purpose is to thank Chairman Bernie for holding public comment tonight. I addressed the board because this was the discussion in September that involved the cost and unfunded intervener vote. At the town hall, the recent town hall, we heard that there were only going to be $75,000 being offered, and we heard at the summer meeting that it could range between 100 to 500, and even maybe 1 million plus. Based on the PSC documentation, a minimum of 500K to 1 million wouldn't be out of the question for intervener. Purpose two is to exhausting proper channels. That is the only way a taxpayer can witness accountability firsthand. According to County Administrator Witt, the rules of the county board do not address conduct outside the county board meeting. Historically, chairs have addressed issues privately. But recently at the town hall, we did have some inappropriate conduct that obviously has been going around the community. One of them was regarding the whipping of my fellow supervisors in closed session. That taints the closed session process that obviously the county board is throwing around. Arguing back and forth with a citizen and insulting, belittling manners, telling a citizen to shut your mouth, telling taxpayers that you must remember your supervisors don't make much money and this isn't their full-time job. Well, this is highly offensive to the taxpayer whose lives are being affected full-time by the 10 Mile Creek Solar Project. Recommended actions, not going into closed session because it's not transparent government due to the point we are at in the 10 Mile Project today. I would recommend the County Board of Supervisors develop a process to conduct town halls with constituents outside of this kind of setting. And I would be interested to see the county board chairman investigate what happened and report back to the administration committee in a public hearing because the people were at that town hall. That being said, I do have documentation, obviously the emails showing that with Ken Witz that it's put in a record as well as Bob Fiedler. And then also because a lot of people like to see evidence. So in a, put it all together, but in a moderate participation of intervener is multiple expert witnesses, environmental, property value, wildlife, cross-examination, detailed findings, public hearings, disposition. You are correct, sir. Could range between 300 to 500 in the mid-range. It could be 500 to 750 in the high range. Now that's right from the PSC, those numbers. Additionally, if you have a full complex one where you bring in the courts prior to that, it could be 700 to 1 million. So if we go anything less than 500,000 for intervener, we don't even have a shot. He is correct. This is right from the PSC itself. And so I would hope to have you guys consider, if you're going to intervene, at least a minimum 500, if not the million plus that was mentioned before at the last administration meeting, or one of those by Heather Amos over here. So that's what I got. Thank you much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Next up is Cherie Croft, and then followed by Laura Conrad.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Sherry Croft, 948 Wirt Road in Hudson. Thank you very much for allowing others to speak too. They were certainly eloquently put together. I'm speaking from my heart today. We are up against a rock and a hard place. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, but I do urge you to please offer adequate, appropriate, a lot of money to cover this cost, to intervene. Going back to my parents, God bless them, if you don't look ahead, you will fall into travesty, devastation. I know I'm old enough to look ahead because I've made mistakes. Please, let's keep this county livable for our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Laura. It's followed by Janet Sapurik. Did I say that right? All right, perfect. Thank you. And then please don't forget state name and address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Connard. My address is 1941 140th Avenue in Baldwin. That's in Erin Prairie. That is directly across from one of the proposed solar fields. Thank you, Roxanne, for what you said earlier tonight. I agree with her comments and I echo what she said. Please invest taxpayer dollars for this. Important things cost money. Some things that are important to others aren't important to other taxpayers or they don't directly benefit, but it is important for the community. Educating kids, housing criminals, law enforcement. I don't know how it was paid for, but there was a significant law enforcement presence in Somerset yesterday at the Liberty event. I assume there was some taxpayer funding there for that. I would like to know how much, because as we talk about how expensive things are and where taxpayer funds are going, there's a lot of money being spent, and I don't think you've sufficiently funded dealing with this project, the solar project, however you're going to deal with it. Just because the fight hasn't been fought before, I don't think it's the losing fight that some other public comments told you that it is. Hard fights are worth fighting. I think it was Chairperson Burning that talked about someone's got to be the first one to win against an undefeated team, and that is kind of what we're up against. But I think we can be the leaders on this, and I think it is a fight worth fighting. I think it's a fight worth funding. Please don't quit on doing what's right. Don't quit just because it's going to be hard. Don't quit because it's going to cost money. I've learned and I've seen there's lots of talented people sitting in front of me. There's lots of people. If you can figure out where you want to go and what you want to do, and I'll get on board on what that direction is, listen to the residents that we don't want this here, and stop it, because I think this is just the first of many to come. It's not just going to be the fields around my house. It's going to be the whole county. It's going to, or more of the county. And maybe that's the direction you want to go. We still kind of don't know what you guys want, and it would be nice to know that. But please fight, and please properly fund the fight, and please use my taxpayer dollars for this. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next up is Janet, followed by Bud. And we might as well say David. I think it's Kramer. Is that right?
My name is Janet Sapurik. I live at 1320 Tulip Lane in Baldwin. And I'm sorry if I'm not totally prepared tonight. I was not aware of a meeting tonight. I think enough money should be budgeted for the highest level of intervention. If it's not all used, fine, no problem. If there's a lack of funds to do the best possible refuting of all that will need refuting, it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will not win. Not appropriating enough money for excellent legal strategy is not helpful. It's best to hire top-notch attorneys who will bring in experts and or prior victims' testimonies. That's what we did in Forest. The committee of the whole budget decision, I was here on the evening, and a commenter said he had 100 signatures of people who don't want their tax dollars spent on intervening. He opined it wouldn't be worthwhile. Please don't use forest as a reason not to fight. That's not logical since we won. Then by Wednesday, the $500,000 motion passed in the administration committee was reduced to $77,000. Again, the logic of that escapes me. 100 people versus 5,300 who petitioned against the solar farm. Do the math. The 2% compared to the 98%. As elected officials, it's your duty to do what the majority of people want. One naysayer or 2% should not cause a funds reduction of 85%. One county administrator should not outmaneuver 16 board members. Something is very wrong with this picture. In my opinion, your county administrator has thrown in a giant monkey wrench, both by pushing a GDA and precluding needed funds for opposing the solar farm. His inviting Excel to the joint meeting was a mistake. The county board should have sought input from the townships first. Listen to your own people first. No matter how far you have come down a wrong road, turn back. Stop listening to bad advice. Seek wise counsel. We taxpayers should get a say in how our money is spent. Reduce projected jail expenses. That's okay. Minnesota and Wisconsin already have the best jails in the country. In my opinion, your county administrator has thrown in a monkey wrench by no matter how far you have come down, turn back. We're asking for your help. Do what the people want. When people go into jail, they are not on the tax rolls. Us law-abiding citizens should get to decide how our money is spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Bud, followed by David.
My name is Bud Fuchs, 1724 Laurel Avenue in the city of Hudson. Dear members of the Administrative Committee, I strongly support contracting with legal and technical experts capable of negotiating the strongest possible joint development agreement that will resolve or reduce concerns while providing the maximum benefits for county government, townships, and county citizens. I strongly oppose the allocation of taxpayer money to oppose the solar farm via an intervention that has zero chance of success based on expert legal counsel, past history, and state laws. Please do not waste my tax money. Funding an intervention with county tax dollars would set a precedent that any minority group opposed to any action would expect the county government to fund opposition to that action. That would be an expensive proposition. As a fairly conservative person, I think it inappropriate for county government to fund an intervention that would basically seek to deny the property rights of private landowners to lease their land as a source of income. For some, this is likely a lifeline to keep their family farm. We know the anti-solar group has raised money for an intervention. County board members set on funding an intervention can contribute their personal funds to that group, rather than spending my tax money. We need solar energy because it is cleaner, less expensive, and environmentally sustainable, whereas burning fossil fuels pollutes our air and water, is expensive, and is driving the climate crisis. We are dooming our children and grandchildren to a miserable climate and world if we continue to meet our energy needs by burning fossil fuels. I would also say that it should be recognized that the county board does not have the ability to stop this project. I think there are some that have been told it does. I know I had a person from a group come to my front door and give me incorrect information on the solar farm, trying to convince me to be against it. And I think that's the source of a lot of chaos that's going on. And that person was funded by an organization representing the fossil fuel industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Bud. David Kramer, you're up next. And then if there's any other public comment after David, please feel free to stand up to the mic, come up to the microphone and state your name and address. Thank you.
Hey, David Kramer, 1551 100th Street in Richmond. First of all, I would say tip of the cap to Ken Witt, the county administrator. The guy's got a tough job to keep a balanced budget, and that's what he proposed to y'all. He explained to me the undesignated fund question I had when Mr. Shirley brought it up. I appreciated that. I think he does an awesome job for what he has for a job. I was at the meeting in Hammond Wednesday night. I heard Mr. Shirley bring up the $500,000 number at a minimum is what he wants. I heard Mr. Burning say, anyone brings a project like this to our county, they better have deep pockets. I didn't get a chance to ask, what is the magic number for you guys where you're not gonna go past? 1 million, 1.5, 2, 3? Tell me, because whether it's 77,000, I also heard that Chairman Long was going to propose, instead of 500, let's agree at 300. So I'm going to propose a different number. How about 190? 19 of y'all, $10,000 apiece. And what I would ask, whether it's 77,000, 190, 500, or $1 million, that you get specifics from these lawyers on what they are doing for our money. Halfway through the project, I would like y'all to be able to see what research they have done, and not just paralegal research, case studies, specifics. It's the 21st century. We can be provided with all that stuff from these lawyers, and not just a broad overview kind of a thing. I think we should get specifics on how you're spending the taxpayers' money. The third thing I'm going to bring up is going to be, we've heard 5,300 people sign this petition. I'm going to remind you all, there's a lot more than 5,300 people in the county of St. Croix that didn't sign that petition for one reason or another. We have no idea how many of the people who signed it are actually St. Croix County residents. Please take into account that we need accountability for how y'all are spending our money. And I hope everybody understands, Excel filed today. Y'all, I hope that's not something you didn't know. So this is happening. Feet were dragged too long on working with someone, and you're going to get the minimum if you don't at least have a little bit of input. You're going to end up like the CN rail facility up in New Richmond, where they could have planted 5,000 trees, they planted 50. Please use our money smartly. Thank you.
Thank you all for your public comment. Is there any further public comment? Any further public comment? Any further public comment? All right, just making sure everyone had a chance to speak there. With that, we will consider that portion of the agenda closed. We'll move on to our business items. First one is Dustin with the financial report for September 2025.
Thank you, Chair Burning. This report is through September, so we're 3/4 of the way through. So in that far right column, we're kind of looking for that 25% remaining budget. You'll see that most of our revenues are right in that line. Same with expenses. Expenses are probably a little more closer to 30 because come December, usually we book a lot of, or not a lot of, but about a payroll and a half that gets paid in January, book it back to December. So that's why you're not seeing the same on the expense side. As we go through departments, or if there's anything that you want to look at individually, just let me know. Otherwise, if we look at the admin tax report, this one we kind of focus on that sales tax number. July came in at 1.054 million, still slightly above budget for the year. Just remember that our 2026 sales budget per Forward Analytics in the state's forecast, we're looking at a little over $1 million increase, so we're really hoping to see the numbers start jumping in the next couple months so we can hopefully be a little more reassured that we're going to hit that number next year. Move on to the KIP report. As you can see, we're starting to close a lot of projects as we get towards the end of the year. One of the big ones that will be closing up fairly soon here is the Government Center expansion. And then on the ARPA monthly reports, there's just 2 items left. One of them has been closed for the year. The last one is the peer recovery support specialist, which is purchase services with Northwest Passage. Any questions or anything in the financials?
Any questions for Dustin on the financial report? Any questions? Okay, that's it. Thank you. We'll move on to number 2, resolution implementing a new wage grid for whoops, I hit the button. The new wage grid for below step 5. So Administrator Witt.
Yeah, this came up, I was talking with one of the employees in preparation of the budget, and the employee made a comment about a peer of theirs had been hired in Pierce County and they were making more than them. And I was kind of surprised because, I mean, we do pay fairly well. We usually pay better than a lot of the surrounding counties, less than Minnesota, but usually higher than Pierce and Dunn and Polk. And the person had been in their position for 7 or 8 years. So I was a little surprised that somebody would have hired at a higher rate. So I went back to look at the reason why, and that employee was at step 2, even though they had been here for 7 or 8 years. So what happens is from time to time we adjust that wage grid. So we did one in 2024 where we look at all the positions, we look at all the comparables, and we take a position, we go, well, the market's gone up on that. So we move the position up so that the position pays higher, but we don't move the employee up. The employee gets reset on that new grade line at a rate that doesn't result in a decrease in pay. And so while we valued the position higher, we didn't value the employee higher. So I thought, well, if it happened to this employee, it might have happened to others. So we looked at it. Audrey ran a report so we could pull all the data and look at it. And anytime you do this, you draw a line. And there's going to be people that fall on either side of that line, and the ones that fall just on the other side are not going to be happy. But we drew the line at 5 years of service and below step 5. What we want to do is, with the step increase on January 1, is get them moving towards the step 6, which we consider a market rate step. So we identified 25 full-time employees and 17 part-time employees that have been in their current position for 5 years or more, and that were below that step 5. To give them each an additional step increase amounts to about $45,000 per year. It's not a large dollar amount when you look at the total salaries. But that was the reasoning behind this request for an additional step increase for these employees.
Okay, is there a motion to bring this forward?
Move to bring it forward.
Okay, there's a motion by Bob Fiedler to approve the resolution implementing additional step increases for employees with more than 5 years of service in current position and below step 5 on wage grid. Is there a second? Is there a second? Second by Long, Supervisor Long. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Supervisor Shirley.
Administrator Witt, can you go over that explanation again? Because I'm having a hard time figuring out how pretty much every year in the budget we have a step increase, and how after 7 or 8 years they could be on step 2. It's not driving with me.
So on the wage grid, so say somebody's at, we'll look at the first one, child support. So somebody's, I don't list their position here because it'd give too much information away. The position is actually what the employee's number is. But so somebody was hired in child support for a position, placed on the wage grid, and they've been moving up. So they've been with us for 5 years exactly. So even if they'd been hired at step 1 on the grid, they should be now at step 5 currently. But what happened is in 2024, and we've done this every 3 to 4 years, we look at the wage grid and we make adjustments to it. We bring it back to the county board and adopt it. So that position in child support then, we said was at a grade 14. And the lower grades, part of what it was is we cut the bottom end of the off and moved everyone up. But that position becomes more valuable. So they might have been at like step 4 at that point in time. The position became more valuable compared to markets. And we said, well, we couldn't hire anybody at this rate anymore. The market has increased for it. So we upgrade that position to a higher grade. So we take that person that's at step 4 or 5 and say, okay, we move them to the new grade, but we're going to slide them down on the steps now because this isn't designed to give them a raise. It's designed to realign the positions. So we slide them down on the steps to a point where they don't take a pay cut. So they may make a penny more, they may make $1 more, but they're not going to make anything less. And so the placement on that then was probably step 1 because it happened in 24. Then in 2025, they got their step, so now they're at step 2. So that's how it happens, is they're sliding down as their position gets elevated due to market conditions. So you see that with, we've seen that with CNA positions. The market for CNA is just skyrocketed. We've done some different adjustments on that. But you can see there's probably some additional CNAs. You have healthcare campus on here. So it just depends on the position that they're in and the market rates for those positions. But that's when it happened. It happened in 24 when we realigned the grid.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. Number 3, resolution adopting 2026 budget and establishing tax levy. Administrator Witt.
Yeah, so this is the formal resolution that will adopt the budget, and more importantly, it determines that levy amount so that we can turn that over to Denise. She can print all the bills and everyone gets their bill in time for Christmas. In the budget itself, there was just a couple of adjustments that were made from what was presented at the Committee of the Whole. I just wanted to go over those just briefly. There was one dollar amount adjustment. It came out of both revenues and expenses, so it had a net effect of 0. But tree sales were doubled up in community development. So they were doubled on both the revenue and the expense side. So $70,000 was removed from revenue, $70,000 was removed from expenses. So it has a net effect of 0. But if you looked at conservation development, that's going to be $70,000 lower than what it was from the Committee of the Whole presentation. That's the only dollar amount that changed. There was a corrected Health and Human Services budget overview page. We'd pulled last year's instead of the current year, so that was updated. I did have a year typo in my PowerPoint presentation, so I fixed that before we get to the final version. And then I did add the 2027 projected numbers, looking at the Committee of the Whole's recommendation to move forward, so that's the far column. So that's just projecting out what 2027 might look like. I did have one request that came in last week, and so it came in to the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors, so the request is made to you, it's not made to me, so I thought I would bring it forward for you guys to consider, and it's for the Conservation Congress. So the Conservation Congress is represented by delegates from all 72 counties. They self-select who they are. It's nothing that the county appoints to that. There is a state statute 59.13.21 that authorizes the county to pay for Conservation Congress delegates' travel expenses. St. Croix County used to, Ellen Denzer used to just pay for it out of her budget. When Jason came on board, he cut that out of the budget last year, so we did not pay for that in 2025. They're making a request that it be added back into the budget for 2026. When I look at most of our peer counties, I did find a couple of counties that do still fund this, but the vast majority of them do not fund this anymore, mostly because they're not our delegates in that we select them. They are representing what they think is in the best interest of St. Croix County, but they're not selected by the county. And so most of them look at it as, since they're self-selecting, that they should have to cover their own travel expenses. So, and that would be my recommendation. I think that's what most counties are now doing with this. So any questions on the budget or on the Conservation Congress request?
I have one, Mr. Administrator. This, you are adding this in, including in the, a resolution, or is this just an extra like, hey, this came in kind of last
Yeah.
second?
This just came in last Thursday evening, so
Okay.
I didn't have a chance other than to attach it to the packet. You can amend the budget if you wanted to add it. I'm not recommending that, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, you have the choice to do it. I'm not hiding it. I'm not presenting you with the things that come in. You see them, but my recommendation is not to, but I did want to make sure that you were aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, well, you just presented it, so now we need to bring this forward. Is there a oh, go ahead, Mr. Administrator. You had
Yep,
something
absolutely.
else?
The resolution then is your action item this evening. And it's recommending the budget and establishing the tax levy amount.
Okay, is there a motion, Supervisor Shirley?
I would make a motion that we move the, where is it? The recommended budget forward without a recommendation from the committee, so that we can further discuss whether it's money that we need to talk about for the solar project or whatever else that we need to talk about at the,
I'm sorry, Supervisor Shirley, what's your motion?
yes, sorry, that we move this resolution forward to the full county board without a recommendation on the committee.
Okay, there's a motion by Supervisor Shirley to send this to the county board without recommendation to the full county board. Is there a second on that? Is there a second? I will second it. Is there any discussion on this motion? Supervisor Long.
I think it's our obligation to review this budget and make a recommendation to the county board, not only move it forward, but make a recommendation. I think the county administrator's done an outstanding job. This is a process that started last spring. It's been going on for the entire year. I think we owe it to them and the staff to make a recommendation, and I certainly fully support adopting this resolution and would not vote to not recommend.
Are you suggesting an amendment?
No.
Okay. Supervisor Fiedler?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Pose a question to the administrator and corporate counsel. Assuming we made a recommendation on the budget and it was adopted, when we got to the budget hearing and the budget resolution on November 4th, is it subject to amendment then?
Yes.
So corporate counsel suggested yes. So we haven't lost anything by moving this forward with whatever we think is best tonight, because we have the option to amend it at the next stage of the process. Thank you.
Are you suggesting an amendment to Supervisor Shirley's motion? Okay. So
No.
Supervisor Shirley's motion is still on the table. Is there any further discussion? Supervisor Long?
Yeah, I'd like to make another comment. You know, probably the best thing that we could do for the county board is to actually discuss this issue between the five of us. If we have a problem with the number, about what we're allocating for the solar farm, let's talk about it. Let's discuss it, and let's see if we can come to some compromise on what we think would be reasonable. And if we can come to a compromise, my guess is it's going to be very acceptable to the county board. So why don't we do our job and talk about it and see if we can come up with the number that we're comfortable with. Gentlemen?
Supervisor Fiedler?
I concur with the overall thought of the chairman of the board in his wish to address a tough issue and try to arrive at a good decision. I also think that that's kind of what happened at the Committee of the Whole meeting a couple of weeks ago when we had open discussion for close to 4 hours, 2 hours of which were on more or less this topic. And everybody was able to express their opinions then, and that went back to the administrator. He did his best to reconcile those various opinions with the budget that's in front of us today. So I totally agree with the concept that the chair would like to see if we could resolve something. So I don't necessarily oppose that, but I would say we've already also gone through it very thoughtfully just 2 weeks ago.
Supervisor Shirley?
I understand where both of you are coming from. I think my concern was, and still is that there was 14 of us there at Committee of the Whole. So there was a number of people that were missing. And I think that when we were talking about the solar project in particular, I think that recommendation of moving forward with $75,000 would have been a different story had everybody been there.
Yes, feel free to discuss.
14 is a majority. And are you unwilling to try to compromise at our meeting so we can do our job or not?
I'm going to allow you two to go ahead and have open discussion, and I will reel this thing back in if I need to.
I'm perfectly fine if we want to figure out a number on that. Let's go. So I don't know what we need to do because we have a motion on the table to do that. So do we openly discuss that differently, or do we up and down vote this and move forward?
Yeah, so I'm going to make as the chair, we have a motion on the table right now to send this budget resolution to the county board without recommendation. That's what the motion is right now. So if you guys someone would like to propose an amendment to that particular line item, is that how we would do that?
I think at this point, the motion is probably still good for discussion because you're discussing a single line item right now in the budget. Depending on what you decide on that, you may make an amendment to change that line item, which would then affect whether you want to approve the budget with or without a recommendation. So I think continue to discuss, determine whether amendment's necessary, and then you can go from there.
Are you okay with that, Corporation Counsel?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure. So I'll leave it to you two guys on my far right and my far left here.
I'm going to refer to a comment by one gentleman at public comment about accountability. Just throwing a number out there, it could cost this, it could cost 4, 5 more. We don't know what it's going to cost. So I think the 75 obviously is a low number, but it was really intended to be a placeholder, okay, to allocate some dollars so that we've got some available to get the process started. But then I think that if we need more and we have good justification and we have good reason to spend more, I think the county board has every opportunity to do that next year in a budget amendment. So just allocating a pot of money just seems a little irresponsible without really knowing how that's going to be spent. So if you want to increase the 75 to have a larger placeholder, I'm certainly willing to go that route. I wouldn't like to go up to the 350 that we talked about in the committee of the whole. I didn't, by the way, I wasn't planning on recommending 300. I don't know where that came from. But, if we could say, okay, we'll do 150 just to have some money, but I'm really concerned about accountability and how that money is going to be spent. And I think we need to know that before we allocate some of those dollars. That's where I'm at.
So, Corporation Counsel, I have a question for you. Regarding the concern that the gentleman had, that's a really good comment, by the way, David Kramer, thank you. Regarding justification for charges, how is that tracked from a legal, standpoint of what they're doing, and how can they detail that to us, and statements of work, scopes of work, signing off on prior to, et cetera? Can you walk us through that, please?
Possibly. So I've never worked in private practice, but I know how billing works. And so typically attorneys bill 6-minute increments. And so what I presume is that either Rebecca Roker, Andy Phillips, whoever is working under our engagement agreement would indicate on the invoice how many hours they worked on something, what they worked on, phone call, email, presentation to the board, whatever detailed work they did, and then it would be in 6-minute increments typically.
Yeah, I should add too that the county board doesn't sign the contract with the law firm. You guys do two parts to this. One is you authorize money and you set the policy. So you're going to say, we want to fight this, we want JDA or we want intervener or whatever it is you want. Then you're going to set aside the money, and then the corporation counsel is going to work out the details of that. So just remember that you're not in the weeds on it, you're at the policy level and the budget level for it.
But when it comes to the weeds, we can see what was cut down or used.
We'll show it to you, yeah.
We can put that into a request saying we would like to see a report on this and the detail of each invoice. I mean, I would say that why wouldn't we want to see that? And can we put that as an authority to say, hey, Corporation Counsel, hey, Administrator Witt, we want to see this every board meeting? Am I right? I'm right.
You could see it, but you don't get to vote on it. So just remember.
Right. I'm saying you report back to us and say, oh, here's 100 hours that they worked at X amount per hours, and here's the line item. Yeah. And then we can go, oh my gosh, they're.
Yep. Board sets policy, they don't micromanage the details.
Right, but we can see it as like the audit, right?
Yeah, we'll show you whatever you want to see.
Thank you, Mr. That's what I wanted to hear. Supervisor Fiedler, you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I was just going to try to clarify the picture that we're operating in. I think somebody mentioned earlier today that XL had conducted their pre-filing today, and so 60 days from now, they will conduct their actual application. So about 20 December, they will make their application, and that will kick off a process at the PSC that will last more or less 12 to 14 months, given past history at that entity. From our perspective, we have, as the administrator said, we've retained counsel. The counsel has counsel that it's important, if we're going to intervene, one, we need to see the application. So that won't occur for 2 months. So let's just assume that in January, they review the application and they come back to us in a reasonable period of time, let's say January or February or March, and they say, hey, given what you've said at your board meetings and the concerns you've expressed, the things you may or may not have gotten into a JDA, we think that there's grounds for you to intervene on topics 1, 2, and 3. And to reasonably intervene on topics 1, 2, and 3, we estimate the cost would be X. And as was pointed out at that point, the board will make a knowing decision on, at that point, did we need to intervene? And if so, to what degree do we need to intervene? And how much will it cost us to intervene? And we can make a knowing decision on how to proceed. And I think that's just a reasonable way to proceed, to be honest. We can put in, we could put in any amount now that seems reasonable. The committee of the whole felt $77,000 was reasonable. It could be adjusted a little bit here and there, but the big decision won't be made until, I would guess, maybe February of next year. And I think that it's not unreasonable to wait until then to make that decision.
Administrator Witt, originally couple months ago, we took or we discussed having $500,000 out of the KIP project and moving it to this particular line item to be there in case we needed it for intervention. Between that meeting and now sitting here discussing this today, committee of the whole, I missed that, my apologies, I was out of town. 77,000 now is the dollar amount. Rebecca Roker, our counsel with, is it Atolls, right? Law firm is suggesting that at least to negotiate a powerful JDA is 150,000. Is that what I heard? Ish.
Just the JDA negotiation would be 45,000 to 75,000.
45 to 75. Okay. So, and we should keep talking with Xcel Energy. I think it's the right thing to do and try to figure something out at least. As far as if we are spending the 77,000 on just that, what does that leave us to intervene? $2,000 with this particular?
I just want to make a clarification. The 75 was basically a number that was a placeholder. It's like, let's plug something in the budget and then we can talk about it later and try to figure out what the right number is. There wasn't any real, it was like the bottom, the lowest number.
Yes, it is.
Just to have it plugged in.
It is the lowest number.
Okay, so there wasn't any real magic about that number.
Totally.
Okay, so I just want to clarify where that came from.
Well, but regardless of that, 75,000, now we're sitting here talking about 77. And for us to intervene, I remember talking to Corporation Counsel 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and you had eloquently stated that it would be somewhere between 500,000 and 1.5 million to do an adequate job at intervention, depending on the level of experts that we want to hire, how much we want to spend on that, et cetera. Did I hear that correctly?
That would include fighting everything. That would be JDA intervening plus suing the PSC after the decision is made.
That's on the higher end of it, is the all of it.
Correct.
Yep.
And I think Attorney Roker indicated that in the realm of $350,000 to $750,000, depending on the extent of subsequent litigation. So that was her recommendation at the
And so in the past, this board, the 19 of us, in multiple facets has over budgeted for many projects. This in particular is coming out of the capital improvement projects, of which we had accounted for that 2 months ago. I, for one, I don't like spending the taxpayers' money. I think there's a lot of things that we spend money on that maybe we should discuss, and that could be for another day at this point. This is something, though, that I feel very strongly about, that we need to have the money properly set aside to intervene. Because if we're going to spend $100,000 on intervention, we might as well spend zero. If we're going to spend $2,000, we might as well spend zero. So that's my thought process on this. Whether or not we're going to do this as a recommended, not recommended, you go not recommended, this is all going to get discussed at the board anyway. So we could sit here and put 300,000, we could put 500,000, we could put zero. This is going to be a discussion point at the county board meeting at the first Tuesday of next month. So I want to understand what we're going to do, because if we go 5-0 on this and we go recommended, it's still going to get discussed. We go 0-5 or we go 5-0 recommended or not recommended, it's going to get discussed. So I don't know. You guys want to plug an arbitrary number in there, or do you guys want to think of a number based on what Corporation Counsel said that we put in there? And then here's the best part: if we need to move it around and move it back, it's a lot easier to move it back than it is to move it in there. That's a fact. It's 2/3 for us to move money in there. And if we don't have the adequate money, then we maybe wasted 100,000 or 70,000. So what do we want to do? Supervisor Shirley.
I think we should discuss also, perhaps, just like we did with this building when we did it, having a subcommittee that would be maybe a mixture of this committee and community development to oversee the solar project as it moves forward. Corp Council said 75,000 roughly, just to look at the JDA. So we have 60 days to look at the JDA is what we basically have. Now, Excel in their press release today threw a monkey wrench in that I've told everybody for a long time, but they keep denying and denying and denying for the last 10 months. They say that the rescope project would deliver 350 megawatts of solar, 350 megawatts of battery storage, which they told us for 10 months would not be in this phase one, located in 2,980 acres with no immediate plan for a second phase. So that is two things that is completely different than what they've been telling us for 10 months. So now, after all of that, with the additional massive amount of battery storage, we're supposed to negotiate a joint development agreement within 60 days. I mean, we can try, but I'm not holding my breath that that's going to happen in 60 days, especially knowing this now. So we need 75,000 to do that. And I'm not even sure that 500's enough to put in there as a placeholder, considering 75 before we even get to intervention. So.
Can I add a clarification? I don't think that the JDA has to be completed within 60 days. Is that correct? It still can be after the fact?
Correct.
Thank you.
And that was discussed at the Wisconsin Counties Association, the situation that Attorney Roker just dealt with in Barron County. The PSC approved the CPCN. Barron County sued the PSC afterwards to negotiate a JDA, and they're almost done negotiating the JDA, and that was the purpose of their lawsuit. So not often does it happen that way, but they are negotiating the JDA after the fact.
Do we know how, go ahead, Supervisor.
Just a quick question. And there's been wonderful debate with on the issue. It's a tough issue. We've all struggled with it for a long time. There's lots of pros and cons. What I would like, if I were to be doing it, I would suggest we agree to all the rest of the budget. Maybe we could agree to the budget with an amendment that's appropriate that simply says, but we would like to further review the solar funding issue in the event that we become an intervener, so that it's very clear that we had concerns about it and we're open to it at the November 4th meeting. But we pass out the rest of the budget with that caveat. And I think if Supervisor Shirley was amenable to that, that might meet his needs and meet the, putting a positive spin on the rest of the budget.
Okay, but before you answer that, I'm not going to accept a motion yet because I have another question. How much did Barron County spend on their lawsuit? Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm trying to remember. I did look it up.
Okay.
The lawsuit has been dismissed as of September 18th. I believe Attorney Roker indicated at the WCA conference it was about 70,000. Correct. Barron County spent zero, actually, because they negotiated in their JDA that the developer would pay for Barron County's attorney's fees.
I'm not left speechless. Supervisor Fiedler. Supervisor Long.
Yeah, I think Supervisor Fiedler had a really good idea. This is a kind of a contentious issue, and we do need the full board to participate. So if there's a way that we could recommend the full budget being adopted, with the exception of that particular line item for further discussion at the board level, I think that might be a good way to proceed. So we don't muddy up the waters on the rest of the budget.
So I'm trying to think of how to do this procedurally. So we unwind that original motion. I vote down, just do another motion to recommend. Okay.
We could do that, I guess. That would be maybe the proper way, or we can do it slightly, maybe more quickly. And since it was a Shirley motion, if you wanted to get credit for that, I would say he could make the motion that Chairman Long just recommended, and I think we'd probably get unanimous consent to it. And if there's no objection, it just becomes what we've done.
So I think we should just call the question on this one and then have a new motion to.
It works.
Thank you. Heather's nodding at me, yes. Okay. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those favor of the resolution made motion by Supervisor Shirley signify by saying aye. Any opposed say no. No. All right, motion is defeated. And then now, yes, Supervisor Shirley.
I will make a motion that we forward, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me now, and it's on the screen. There we go. The, adopting the 2026 budget and establishing the tax levy, where do we add, Corp Council, where do we add a line item in there? Maybe, now therefore.
Just part of the motion.
Okay, that we excluding the line item for solar intervention.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Please, I was going to actually ask you to repeat the motion.
So I believe what Supervisor Shirley wants to do is a motion to approve the resolution adopting the 2026 budget and establishing tax levy, except for budget item 5211.7, legal services in the Corporation Council budget.
Yes.
That's acceptable? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Fiedler. Discussion. Yes, Supervisor Long.
I just want to encourage everyone at this point to be willing to compromise. Think about that. I think at a board level, I think we're obligated to be willing to discuss and compromise and come up with a number that the board overall is comfortable with in terms of allotting money. I'm just kind of putting that comment out there for you to think about it.
Thank you for that comment. Is there any further discussion? Supervisor Counter. You've been awful quiet. Please, sir.
Well, a couple of questions first for Corp Council. Okay, we've retained what I guess we would consider one of the best law firms in the state to represent us and to give us good legal advice in this particular proceeding. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. With that in mind, have they produced any reviews or anything yet as far as the current situation where we're at with listening to what our constituency has brought forward during public comments, and along with any details that Xcel Energy has provided for this project, any studies or anything where they've done any types of reviews to make a recommendation of what direction we should move with this? You know, have they got any of the statistical information and the things that's necessary so that we can make educated decisions on how to proceed with this?
Attorney Roker did provide comments to the joint development agreement, and that was attached to the Community Development Committee agenda packet from last week. I think that was reviewed by the CDC. Obviously, Supervisor Counter and Supervisor Shirley were there for that discussion. I believe that is the extent of the review we've had Attorney Roker do to date. Is just provide us with red flags or things to look out into that JDA for CDC's agenda last week, because we knew that the JDA would be on that agenda. So to date, that's at least what I am aware of that they've provided in terms of guidance to the county.
Okay. You know, with this, we're relying on those individuals with the Tollies to put this together and to give us their best educated process of how we should move forward with this. And with that knowledge, that would be very beneficial for us to make the best decision on behalf of the county, in my eyes. Without all of the facts and all of the pieces, it makes it extremely difficult, and none of it, well, at least I don't think anyone on the board here are attorneys that specialize in that particular area. So that reliance is going to be critical to know where we're going. And I think if they bring forward a format that says, hey, this is where you need to go, this is the best methods, this is what projected costs are, it would be much more beneficial for us that we can key in on this. And I think you're going to get a consensus of the board to move that direction. So therefore, I'm thinking that the relevancy to the number up front isn't as critical as it is getting the correct information so that we can make a very educated decision on behalf of the county.
Supervisor Counter, those are great points. I would ask if we could get Rebecca to come and speak again at our next meeting. Is that possible? Or somebody to speak to that so that the board has the ability to ask questions?
So the plan is to have Attorney Roker here on November 4th at the county board meeting.
Wonderful.
To discuss the red flags that she pointed out in the JDA. There will be a resolution before the county board that came out of CDC regarding that JDA. And I believe, if I recall the resolution accurately, it's to have Attorney Roker negotiate with Xcel Energy directly. And so that's why she would come on November 4th to discuss to the county board the red flags, the areas that she sees that are concerns, what she thinks should need to be changed. I would note she did indicate that usually the applications are about 2,000 pages long. And sometimes you don't know what needs to be argued until you read that application, because that application will have the specifics in it. Right now, we're obviously operating on just what Xcel has told us.
Oh, my mic's still on. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Before we vote, I'd just like to say thank you for the hearty discussion on this matter. All those in favor of the motion, should I read it again? You want to read it again, please?
Sure. Motion to approve resolution adopting 2026 budget and establishing tax levy except for budget item 52117, legal services in the Corp Council budget.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. With that, our business items are concluded. Are there any requests for future agenda items? I already have yours. Any other requests for future agenda items? But by all means, if you have more. Okay, all right, you're good. Any future agenda, requests for future agenda items? Okay, seeing no others. Announcements, any announcements? Any announcements? Any announcements? All right. Date of next meeting will be November 18th, 2025. And with all business items concluded, at 6:13 p.m. we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.